ready to go. I guess there we are live now. There's a double default there. For those of you who don't know, I got one of these Stream Decks, and I got it a while ago. I used it on my desktop mainly. It gives you all these buttons that you can make macros to.
Okay.
And I probably got this in the winter, and I brought it out once, but like all the automatic macros set up for StreamYard were wrong. So when I went to use them, it did nothing as I pressed the buttons. But if you look down there under settings in StreamYard, there's I think shortcuts it says, and that gives you all the shortcuts. And I was like, oh, I'll set those up to the buttons. So I don't know if they're all going to work or not, but we'll see. But I can turn off my camera.
Yeah,
that works. I can
Your finger was on the button, but the correct. You just only the wrong buttons were working.
Yeah, the buttons worked fine. They just didn't do anything. You can press them all you want.
Yeah, it's like that meme with the cat playing the piano, but then you overlay a song on top because the cat's obviously not playing.
Yeah, annoyingly at my shop this week there were no Image comics. Good evening, Tit Goblin. Glad you can make it here with us this week.
What do you mean no Image comics? That's impossible.
It's possible because none of the Diamond stuff was in.
Inconceivable.
Because Roy, the owner of the comic shop, lives in Orange County. The comic shop is in Rockland County. Matter of fact, it's in southern Rockland and Pearl River. Roy went on vacation on Tuesday. The Diamond deliveries don't go to the shop. They go to his house. So usually he gets the Diamond deliveries on Tuesday. The shop isn't open on Tuesdays. Sorts through everything. And like I think the Marvel and the DCs come in Mondays now. Drives down Wednesday with the Diamonds and first. Well, this time since they came in on Tuesday and he was leaving on Tuesday, he did not get the books into the shop. So I'll pick up all this week's Image. I have like 5 Image books, I think, this week. I'll pick them up next week. So there was like what do I got here? An AWA book, an IDW book, and a Scout book. Because I think they all piggyback on DC. Whoever is, I forget who's distributing for DC these days. But some of the other smaller ones piggyback on Marvel or DC, whichever they do. So that's why there was no books from Diamond in at my shop this week, because Roy was on vacation. And John, who lives right next in the town next to Nanuet, he lives in Nanuet, which is the town next to Pearl River. He wasn't driving all the way up to Orange County, which would be an hour up and an hour back.
Ouch.
Wow.
So I'm getting them next week.
Disgraceful.
It's a small shop.
But what are you going to do without your fix of Image comics, though?
Luckily, I had other things to read. One thing that just came today, so I haven't read it yet, was Strangers in Paradise, 10th printing. This is the original miniseries, Volume 1. In fact, let me see if the solo button works here. Oh, look at that.
It does. All right.
And it's also got, it's black on gray, a Terry Moore autograph with a little rose drawing there, too.
Nice.
Oh, it won't unsolo me, though. That's annoying. there's no exit solo button shortcut. But being that if you remember the last mycomicshop.com order I did, I got I don't know, half a dozen Strangers in Paradise in it. I was filling in my collection because I want to reread the whole thing from the beginning, which I've never done. But I'm still missing 4 issues, like issue 1, 6, I don't know, 8 and 10 or something like that from volume 2. This is the only thing that's in volume 1, these 4 issues. And I have like a third printing of issue 1, volume 1 that I bought when it came out. But I was looking up how much, because I was going to get the issues. But then it's like, I didn't realize that all the issues of volume 1, like issues 2, 3, and 4 are like $40 a piece. So I'm like, yeah, I don't think I need those. I'll get to, so I found this on eBay. What was it? I think it was around $9 plus $5. So around, with tax, it was probably right around $15 with tax and shipping. So I was like, all right, I don't need the original issues if they're going to cost me $40 or $50 a piece. That's for sure. I'd rather spend $15 on this. And it was just a bonus that was autographed, because I wasn't even looking for, I didn't even notice it was autographed until once again, I think the price on it was like not $10 or $11. And I put it on my watch list, and whoever was selling it sent me, an offer for $9, 10 or 15% off. I was like, all right. That's what I always do now. If I want something, I put it on my watch list, and, they usually send you a couple bucks off just because they want to sell it. Good evening, comic book fans. Good evening, Comic Crack. I really need to read that series. Yeah. It's good. Like, I haven't read it in ages. Oh, I have to show you one more thing I got just yesterday. This is the Kickstarter I did. Where's books? Reading books. Terry Moore After Dark. Let's get that solo button again. This is the digital version of it. Where am I going here? How come it? That's not turning any pages. There's the cover.
Try down.
What was that?
Try going down or going up.
Oh, no, it's left. Gives you a whole bunch of sketches. These are the sexy sketches. There's a couple nude ones too, even. But he did this as a regular book too. There's some type underneath some of them too, telling you what they are. But it's about 120 pages of Terry Moore sketches. So I was like, all right. And like I said, I ended up, I think I could have gotten the book of it, but the book itself was like, with shipping, I think was $35, right around $35. I was just like, I don't know if I want to pay $35 for it. So I ended up paying $12 for the digital version. So I was like, all right, I can live with that.
Definitely.
So I got the digital version. Let's see, what do we got here? Yawasa Comic Savants. Good evening. Teenage, love it. Howdy. Good evening, Mind the Comics. Evening. The faces are unvarying in those sketches. Yeah, he does that. He has got that real pretty face down. He does variations of it, but it's always kind of that. He does. There's so many pretty women in it that they kind of blend together after a while. But I mean, I like it, but I didn't know if I needed to spend that much on a physical book. Because he's very good at expressions too. But when he's all of those is his pretty faces. They're all looking at you like good girls, kind of prettily.
Yeah, I remember his when he did the learn how to draw pages in an issue of Wizard.
Right.
And he was teaching people how to do a distant facial expression. So first you draw the facial expression, then you draw the details. Because he did the example with the asymmetrical face where he drew all everything detailed first, so the details didn't match up.
He's actually got a couple of drawing books as comic books that he published. How to draw sexy women, how to draw this, how to draw. There's a couple of them. I can't remember what they were. Mind your buttons. Terry Moore and his wife have the most interesting small business made from his great imagination. Yeah, I'm always shocked at how normal and lame they are in real life. Yeah, his YouTube channel is so dull. They are so normal. It's like I expect him to be this, crazy out there artist, and he's just so normal and calm. It's just like, whoa.
Yeah, people probably say you're an artist. I always picture for a clerk.
And they're both just sweet and nice.
And they're in the entertainment business? What's the world coming to?
That was 2 Terry Moore things I got.
1 Terry Moore thing?
2 Terry Moore things.
Yeah, too many Terry Moore things. No, you can never have too many Terry Moore things.
Nah.
And I still need one. I still need one. I'll probably buy some. I'll have to buy some.
Oh, I just got a Kickstarter. I've been doing a lot of Kickstarter this summer. I just got a project update from. I got some Great Gatsby playing cards. I think they were about $20 shipped, and they're officially licensed, I guess, by the estate. But they have really nice designs and drawings on them. I was like, I'll get these. I like playing cards, and I like the Great Gatsby. So they were one of those things that I think they were funded by about $50. Because I think like the funding goal was like $8,000, and like it on the last day, like the funding was like $8,050. I'm like, I wonder if they just put in the last $100 themselves.
Which is technically illegal. No, yeah, it breaks the term. They're breaking the terms of service.
Or got one of their friends to. I'm like, without breaking the terms of, but it's like when you pass, but it was a narrow. It was like a $50 margin, if memory serves. So I was like, whoa, that just barely passed.
But it passed.
Yep. I was like, hey, I'm glad it passed. I wanted the cards. You guys done any They have Kickstarter over there in Portugal, Paulo?
I'm not. One of them is not available from Portugal. I think it's not Kickstarter, maybe. But we have to,
because I know they do. Places always mention about shipping to foreign countries, so they must be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it also depends on whether they can accept the currency,
right?
Because if it's something like Bhutanese lux or whatever they call it, they probably don't accept it.
How's your Gatsby book coming along, Jared? It's still. I'm still doing illustrations for it. Matter of fact, I have to stop doing illustrations for it. We're almost to the point where I've got an illustration for every 2 pages of artwork. Matter of fact, I did. Is there a Great Gatsby board game? Do it earlier in this summer. I don't know if I discussed this on here or not. I actually used AI to complete some stuff in that I forget which chapter it is. Chapter 5, I think it was, in Gatsby. starts with Nick, the narrator, giving a list of names of people. He's like, I just want to give you some idea of who was at the parties this summer. And he gave a list of names of who was at the parties. And last year when I started this, I got it in my head that I was like, I want to draw all the people on that list. That would be cool. I was like, that'd be cool to draw. It's a long list. The list is about 70 names, but a lot of them are couples. And some of them are groups. So it ended up being about 110 people. And like I said, I thought of this last year. I gathered all the names together last year. But I'm like, drawing 110 faces is a lot of work. So I was just like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Because, I mean, drawing 110, I was like, I have no, it was kind of like, I knew that was like a month's work, solid, drawing 110 faces. It's like, at least, if not 2 months, that's a lot of work. And I was like, I don't know if I actually want to. So I put it in my back burner in the back of my head to think of how I do it. And then I said to myself, I have a bunch of art cards. Whoops. I'm knocking over Grifter. This isn't one of my art cards. This is one I just bought off of eBay, a drawing someone did of Marilyn Monroe. But I have a bunch of cartoon art cards that I run on my Sunday strip, Drifting and Dreaming, which are just a person standing there with a balloon over his head saying something. But I've been doing them for years. I have 1,000 of them. So I've drawn 1,000 faces at this size. So I said to myself, if I can leverage them somehow, it would save me the time of coming up with each individual face. You know, I could use that as the underdrawing. So that's what I ended up doing. I drew them all at heck, I don't even know where they're in a book in there. I drew them all at 6 by 9 inches, which is this size. And what I did was I took the cartoon art cards that were this size, which are already scanned in, so I didn't have to do anything. I wrote an action that turned the color cartoon art card into a blue line drawing and printed it out, printed one per page. You know, I did it over, took me about a month to do it that way. Not full time, but I think it took me about an hour a card, which isn't that bad. I did it over 2 months time. So I ended up, and I had to first pencil them and then ink them. And like at the end of that month, I was like, whoo, or 2 months, I was like, whoo, I got them all. I can't believe I drew all 110 people. And then I was like, oh my goodness, I want them to be color, but I don't want to color them. Because they ended up being printed they ended up in the design. I built the design for them kind of as end papers. You know, I've got like 5 end papers on either end of the book filled with these 110 drawings. And they ended up printing about this size, but they're all in black and white. So I said to myself, let's try, I want to color them, but at a minimum, it would take me an hour each to color them. Probably 2 hours. So that's another 100 hours. That's another 200 hours. I was like, no, I can't do it. So that's when I was like, well, let me see if I can somehow use AI to color these. So I got this app on my iPad, which turns you're supposed to be able to turn yourself into a manga into an anime drawing, right? And it actually works pretty good, especially when you start with a drawing. So I would feed, you know, I bring my drawings onto my iPad, and you had like 20 styles of anime to choose from: sci-fi, romance, jungle, this, that, whatever. And it would turn my black and white drawing into a color anime drawing. The main problem with that was it didn't look anything like my drawing anymore. I don't do anime drawings. My drawings are my drawings. They look like my stuff. But I was like, maybe I can leverage the color from this somehow. So I ended up, once again, bringing them into Photoshop, matching them up, since they're the exact same, they end up being the exact same size and proportion, putting my drawing of my black and white line drawing over top of their color drawing. Then I had to turn down the black channel to get rid of their line drawing. So it's now my line drawing with their color underneath it. Problem was, it still looked terrible. So I ended up grabbing the background and blurring it. Made it look better because the backgrounds were like these weird anime backgrounds that made no sense. So I'm like, all right, I got the background done. That's it. And I ended up turning down the opacity on their their color drawing too. So it muted it more. So it looked more muted. So then I got it to where I want. I brought all my drawings in, matched them all up. And it looked pretty good. Except for now, the other problem was it made all of the eyes into these big anime eyes with big eyelashes, which was fine for some of the women's drawings, but not too good for the dude drawings I was doing. Because like I said, I don't draw anime style. And the lips were all the noses were these upturned noses. All the lips were these little pouty lips. So I had to go in and a lot of, like, for some of the eyes, I just shrunk them down so that they were right behind my eyes, and then just use content aware fill to fill in where the white was. That worked fine. It was just basic color there anyway. And then I had to delete all the nostrils on the upturned noses. And then I had to take the mouths and usually enlarge them so they were like behind the mouths I drew. But this all went pretty quickly. And then the last thing I did, I got it all done. I was like, okay. Now the problem was all of the color was pretty terrible. It didn't all exactly go together. Didn't exactly look like anybody who knew color theory put any of this color together. So what I ended up doing was making them all sepia toned. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to, this is a book from 100 years ago. I'm going to make all those portraits sepia toned. That'll go with sort of the theme of an old Gatsby book. So that's what I did. I made them all sepia toned, and I actually ended up, in the end, I liked how they looked. And this whole process took me 20 hours as opposed to 200. So in the end, I liked the way it worked out. It saved me a lot of time, but it's certainly nothing I can kind of use AI art as a sort of another tool in the tool basket. But unless I want my drawings to look like anime drawings, I can't use it at all. It's like it makes my drawings not look like my drawings. That's a real problem. But I could leverage the color from them. So that worked out. Let's see.
I can see the attractiveness of trying to get it to do coloring for you because, again, I'm in the same boat in the sense of spending so much time working on the drawings themselves, penciling and inking them. Mm-hmm. I don't want to spend the next couple of hours per panel to do the
I was
coloring.
only going to do very basic coloring because they ended up being about this big when they print. So I don't want there's 120 of them. I can't render each one. I don't even want to. Yeah. So that's where it helped. It really, I got to say, I was really happy with the way they came out. Let me see. Do I have any here still? I think I just had some on my desktop that I was putting into a blog. Where'd they go? I was writing a blog about this whole process so I'd remember it. What the heck was the name of them? There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's pull them out of it. Oh, those are the originals. That's not what I want. Where are the colored ones? Dun, 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 dun. There we go. Let me see. Whoops. Let's hit the share button, see if it works. Share, all right. Share screen. Probably no stuff. Window. Oh, it's not in. I have to move. It can. I use 4 screens on my Mac. I have 4 screens set up for 4 different tasks, and it can only share the screen that is in the window that I'm using StreamYard in. So that slows me down when I have to do that, because I usually don't have Photoshop in my internet, browsing the internet screen. It's in the Photoshop screen. Okay, now it's in the right screen. Let me hit the share button. Share screen. Window. There we go. There it is, colored and sepia toned. And the black line is mine. And you can see it, like all these eyelashes here. All these eyelashes, you can see where I put the eye behind the eye I drew. Where's another one? Here's another guy. Once again, you can see I had to match up the lips a little bit. You can see this brown is the eye that the anime thing drew. And there's that. And you can see these eyes I just blurred out. I was just like, I can't use those at all. I'm just going to blur them out. And then you can see the little lip in there, but that really, like I said, these are going to be tiny. So just as long as but it puts it, like all these shadows are from the AI art. I just did the straight black line. There we go. Once again, you can see, I think I had to, I had to blow these lips up to, so you can see it's, and then, you can still see one little nostril. It's like I probably deleted a nostril that was right there. Oh, this is another one. I just blurred, the eyes were too big and strong, so I just blurred them out, so it made a shadow. But yeah, you can see that's how they ended up looking. I thought they came out pretty good for taking 10% of the time it would have taken with me coloring them.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way you described it, sure looked like you were taking more time.
Now, like that all. What it was I could automate that process. That whole process got automated, where all I had to do was open up my drawing, open up the AI drawing, hit a button, and it automatically pastes it in the back, automatically chooses the background, automatically blurs the background. And then I went in and the thing I had to do by hand was the eyes and the nose and the mouth. So I had to do each of those by hand. That took up the most time. And then I hit a button and it automatically made it sepia tone. So that was the, and actually turning them into that AI took an instant. It's just like Photo Leap, open this one, hit that, nah, I don't like it. Hit that, nah, I don't like it. Hit that one, like it, save. And it's just out. That took seconds. It took me a minute per drawing to turn it into an anime drawing. So that was really fast. Let's see. And that's how my Gatsby book is coming along. Great guy. There isn't, just checked and figured there were no Gatsby board game. Love an adult novel with that many illustrations. Or possibly Spawn versus the Great Gatsby. No, I got a Great Gatsby versus Dracula idea. It's when he's fighting in World War I. The crossover event of the century. Gatsby, love Apple knowing what I want to type. Give us a peek, Jared. Yeah, those were the. It's like all the people who do big plastic surgery on the face, they all become like siblings. Yeah, you have to. Is Gatsby public domain? Yes, it is. That Frankenstein meets Gatsby. Well, Gatsby came into the public domain in 2021. That's where there have been so many Gatsby projects. Here's an interesting Gatsby. Tomorrow I got a book. I just found out about this. The first essay was written by a professor in 2020 about this. There's now an idea that that some people think that they support with some things that go on in the text, that the great Gatsby, the character himself, is a mixed race guy passing as a white man. Which I had never heard before. I thought that was a cool, and they actually, so the historians say there's no evidence historically for it in anything that the author said, whose name just flew out of my head. There's no evidence, but all these people give text. The text gives them the evidence. And like I said, I read the original essay from back 20 years ago, and just I think it was in 2017 somebody wrote a book about it. A woman wrote a book giving all the evidence for how Gatsby very well could be a passing as white, and I can see how the evidence could be in the text, because the book is about him recreating himself. So because there's all sorts of, like, he's described as having close cropped hair that looks like he gets it cut every day. He's described as being very tan. There's only one time in the book where he's described as a white man, and and he's called that by Jordan, who in the book is sort of the established liar of the group. Is established, she has a habit of lying. So I can't wait to read the whole book. It sounds interesting. I read some stuff on this and that. So, but oddly, for a book that came out in 2017, there's no digital version of it. So maybe it was like self-published, like Lucas. I also just ordered that this book I have. Where is it? That we've talked about, According to Jack Kirby. This came out a couple of years ago. I just got it this year, by Michael Hill. And he also just wrote another one, like the history of Jack Kirby in the late 50s, which once again, you can only get on Lulu. It's print on demand from Lulu. So I just ordered that one today. It was like $26, I think, with shipping and tax. It's like an $18 book, but then with shipping and tax, it's like $26. So I'll have that one coming too. So maybe that Gatsby one was like this. It was a short run press only. Mm-hmm. Have you messed with? Oh, he's got his. Have you messed with AI at all, Wilson?
I've played around with a little bit of what is it?
Superman's brother, Gatsby.
Dolly or something like that.
Oh, Dolly.
I played around with that. I played with the Chat GPT one. From what I've seen and what I played with, it's good to help you organize what already kind of exists. You get out what you put into it when you're asking it questions and stuff like that. So I found that to be interesting. I haven't found it to make any real shortcuts for me yet.
Well, that's because the problem with those is you have to write the description. Mm-hmm. Because those ones are text-based. The one I was using, PhotoLeap on the iPad, is more, you take a picture and it just works with a picture. You're not describing anything. You've already got your picture or
Right. I've played with the stuff like like the TikTok filters will do an AI thing where it'll make you into Spider-Man and stuff. I played a lot with those.
PhotoLeap is like that.
Yeah, and I've used Motion Leap. where
yeah, I think that's the
you could
same
do
company, right?
yes, you could do things like manipulate stuff to look like it's moving. So I've done a lot of that. I've played with that and had fun making little images of my artwork with lens flares and clouds moving in the background. But as far as coloring or something like that, I haven't found one
Yeah,
to use
no,
in that way. What you described, it was like, okay, that's interesting. It would be great if it did follow your line, so you could, you know,
yeah.
because I
I
was
use
going to
it
suggest,
for kind of a very specific task
right.
that I
So,
had control over too. I have no editor to answer to.
right.
If you have an
So that,
editor to answer to, there was like, could you make this more this or more that or more that? And you're just like, no, I can't. That's too much
yeah.
work.
So I could see it as a tool. There
Yeah.
was one of them, I think it was the Dolly one, where you tell it to draw something,
Hmm.
and I tossed in a couple of things to make some monsters to see what it could come up with. Merge this animal with this animal and
Right.
show me something. And it was like, it was interesting, but it was like there's nothing that I could really use. Nothing that I could really even just because I was thinking, oh, I'll have it create something and I'll redraw it and use that as the inspiration. And none of it,
Not yet.
and might have been what I put in there just
It-
didn't look
it's not.
great when
You
it
know.
came out.
You know how comics are going to be made in the future. This is crazy to think of. But I can guarantee you this is what's going to happen. Um, we've all seen Blade Runner, right?
Mhm.
Remember when he was having the computer examine the photograph? And he was going quadrant 1, 3, and the computer like, you zoom in, zoom in quadrant 7, zoom out 30%. And like the picture would even go around the corner. Quadrant 1, 6, zoom in. The computer would do whatever he said. Can you imagine when AI gets to the point where you can talk instead of typing, you can talk to it. You can say something, and I can imagine this happening in the future. 3D model of Spider-Man. Give me 80% Ditko, 15% McFarlane, and 5% Romita. And it gives you a 3D model of that. And you're like, no, make that 70% Ditko and 20% McFarlane and 10% Romita. And you go, and it gives you, and you just say prompts until it gives you a Spider-Man you want, you like. And then you go, okay, give me him crouching. Left leg 6 inches higher, hip rotate 10 degrees to the right. And it does it all perfectly. It gives you the exact 3D model you want just by talking to it.
They did that in
View
Star
from.
Trek: The Next Generation.
Oh, they did.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, AI is going to do that, and there are going to be people drawing comic books doing that. You're going to see comic books made that way.
yeah. The holodeck episodes.
Okay.
Stuff would just change. When they were in the holodeck, they would tell it, holodeck, delete this chair, turn this chair into a vase,
Right.
something like that.
You'll be doing that. You'll be so people who can't draw at all will be making Spider-Man comics.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the future of AI, and it's kind of crazy to think.
I think so as well, but the thing is like how long before that could even happen?
I don't know, but
Things move quickly,
it is
but at
moving
the
so
same
fast.
time,
There are
but at the
people out
same
there.
time is we
There are groups of people out there right now working on making movies with no actors. And it's just people from around the world, people who just, this is their hobby. This is what they want to do. This is what they're interested in. And because there's one guy I follow on TikTok, I forget his name, he's made it his job to keep up everyone on what's going on in AI. And it is crazy how fast it's moving. It's crazy.
It's insane. I mean, if you just look at every now and then a company will pop up. Like I know Disney recently is looking for someone to basically do that kind of work so they can patent their own machine and
Right.
their own style type of thing. Um, I always worried, I've always had the fear, and this is before AI, was why not, since a company like Marvel has all the files almost digitally,
Right.
it hasn't sit there and cut and paste images and just redid another comic in whatever style because they have more than enough. Let's say Ditko Spider-Man. Yes, there's only 35, 33 issues of Ditko Spider-Man, but there's enough images there you could cut and paste and move around and what have you. And then just write dialogue to it. It's almost the ultimate Marvel method because you can
Yeah.
just basically put it all together and go boom, here's a new issue. I'm surprised they haven't done that with like the black and white essentials
I just think that's too much work.
because there's one
It's
guy sitting there cutting pasting
yeah.
everything.
I think that's
Yeah.
too much. I think it's easier to hire freelancers to do new stuff than to hire a guy to do that
Okay.
and have it make money. If they thought they could make money doing that, they would. But I think that particular method
Right.
isn't a moneymaker. It's a lot of work for someone for something that's they don't get constant new IP from.
Right.
Um,
A
but
few
yeah,
weeks ago,
once
I saw
AI can do that, though, it'll be less work. What was that, Paolo?
a few weeks ago somebody complained that there was a variant cover available from DC, obviously made by an AI.
Mm-hmm.
It was a headshot of Harley Quinn in anime style.
Yeah. I imagine there'll be people who complain, but I also think that your average fan doesn't really care.
Because it wasn't announced as a
Right.
art. It was announced as being a new artist that it had a name, but there's not. It was a new artist. Didn't have an Instagram. Didn't have any play. Didn't have a deviant art. Nothing of the sort. So it didn't exist.
So people knew it was an AI just because they couldn't find the artist.
Yeah.
And I
But
do know, like recently in Comic Con over the weekend, San Diego Comic Con, they threw out someone who was selling AI prints. A person who's an artist who knew how to draw decided to sell AI prints, saying that they created a new art style, and basically they got run out of the con.
Wow.
So at the moment, people are lying and saying they did the artwork.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that are being caught and being thrown out. It's not until an editor goes, hey, we want to do it this way. And, people were complaining about, sticking with Marvel, Disney, and stuff like that. The recent TV show with the Skrulls, that series, the opening, the cartoonish opening is all AI. And
Right.
people are complaining about it because it's ugly AI too.
Yeah, but the actual effects group made that, I heard too.
Mm-hmm.
So they were using AI as a tool, but I think the actual effect they didn't farm that out to someone who wasn't their regular effects group.
Right.
Good evening, Sketch Boom. The idea of Gatsby being mixed race didn't sound alien. There was a TV series called Gats on development under that reasoning. Yeah, apparently the idea has been around for about 20 years, but I'd never heard it before. TGIF, fellas. YouTube mind the comics? Into the Spider-Verse movie is the beginning of that idea. Yeah, they were using, well, they weren't quite using AI in that, but they were using stuff to create backgrounds.
Right. They were using AI in the sense of helping the artist, not
Right.
necessarily replacing the artist. They were doing stuff for in-betweens, I believe, but there was still someone behind the controls who was an artist.
Yeah.
I think we would get some beautiful AI stuff by artist who's using it as a tool, and then you're going to get someone who's going to show up and go, I know how to do prompts. And that's where
Yeah.
you're going to have, you're going to have some great stuff with artists playing around with it. And then you're going to have someone show up saying they could do it. And, that's where the worrisome comes.
Right.
But, I joked around with, you have to really tell the AI what you want. And so far, clients have never been able to tell us what we want or what they want. So it's like, until that bridge happens, I'm not too worried about it yet. Plus, the AIs keep making way too many fingers.
No, they've cured that already, they say.
Have they cured that?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm still seeing things pop up.
Well, it's still wonky stuff, but ChatGPT 4 is a lot better than ChatGPT 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. Can the human race currently keep up with that? Currently, they can. I don't know how long.
All that mixture style is not true. It's not true AI. We're using AI and the name, but there's no sentient computers really out there. They just work faster in their prompts.
Right. All that mixture of styles exists at the movie, and there's already a computer who puts it together. That's the Spider-Man one, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're putting that together. I'd rather have someone that has been proven it's pen or paint or paper. Good luck proving. Yeah, already I can't tell a lot of times if guys do stuff in natural media or on the computer. The computer has gotten so good at mimicking natural media that sometimes you don't know. Sometimes some guys I thought were digital actually paint, and sometimes the other way around. Usually the only tell, this is a clue for you people out there, the only tell that something is digital rather than natural media is the white. If someone puts white over the top of a color, in natural media, that white's usually a little transparent. You don't put an opaque white, or it's hard to put an opaque white over a color you've already built up. Digitally, you put white over a color, it's perfectly white. So that's one of the tells you can usually see. But you can't always see it, and not everybody does that. If you see an outline in white that doesn't look natural, it's probably because it's digital. But not always.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's to me, I had a conversation before about it that we'll get some really great looking things by artists playing around, and then there's going to just be a whole slew of stuff that's going to be created by someone that will eventually bleed into the regular market, and then eventually we won't be able to tell if anyone actually created something.
Especially since there are a lot of fans these days, especially when it comes to comic book covers, who are fans of technique, really. Like, these, I can't remember their names. Oh, what's that guy's name? They usually don't have names. They have handles. Is Art Germ one of them?
Yeah.
Who has this really sort of polished, smooth, pretty technique. And that's what people like. They like the technique. Because the imagery is just, a pretty girl standing there. There's no real work on the imagery. I think it's Art Germ I'm thinking of. That's his name. But he does a really pretty technique. And that's actually what people like, the technique. What AI does really well is technique. Once they get that AI stuff down, you're going to be able to tell it a specific technique to use, and you can knock out covers all day. Do Wolverine in this technique. Do Spider-Man in this technique. Do Black Cat in this technique. And it'll be in an instant. So those guys, I think, are especially going to have to watch out, because they could have because technique is what people like about them. So I think that's going to be a strange thing to watch, to see. Like if you can If you can do a technique just by telling the AI that people like as much as Art Germ's technique, and Art Germ's technique is very mechanical. It's smooth and pretty, and everything's rounded, and that's what people like about it. There's no sign of the human hand. That's what people like about his technique. AI can do that, like, whew. That's the technique that's built for AI. So it could wipe all those guys out. When all of a sudden any 25 guys can do Art Germ technique as well as Art Germ just by describing it, they can underprice him really easily.
Yeah.
So that's something.
It won't take much. Art Germ style is already a popular prompt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. Because that's a prompt that machines can do real well because it's a machine-made thing. His whole style is not to show the human hand, and there's others out there like him with a similar sort of styles. That
I tried Mobius style, and it's not good at doing Mobius.
No.
But then again, I'm just using the web-based version, and this thing has limited resources because it's like 1,000 people trying to do it at once. It takes me 50 seconds to generate it, less than 50 seconds to generate an image. So, and it's 700. It's like 700 pixels wide.
I wonder if a rougher looked art will become popular in response to too perfect looking digital art. Could be. You never know. That there's always people, but they're kind of the minority who want to see the human hand at work.
Yeah, most people like stuff to look pretty.
Yeah. As long as it looks pretty, they're good. Speaking of looking pretty, I bought a new copy of Mr. X #4. And this was actually the very first Mr. X comic I got. And the only reason I think it cost me around $10. Getting comics off of eBay, even cheap comics, is always double the price because it was like, $5 for the comic and $5 for the tax and shipping. So it's like, it's always more expensive, but I can get the exact comic I want. And there's a lot of people who are like, well, to make the shipping worth it, I'll get 4 more comics. And I'm like, I don't want to spend $30 for a $5 comic. So it cost me about $10. But the reason I got this was because you really can't tell. My version of it has some scuffs in this black. And they've been there for years. And every time I go through and I look at the covers of Mr. X, I'm like, I wish those scuffs weren't there. They're not terrible, but they're just little scuffs in the black. It happens. Black
covers are notorious for showing you every imperfection it has. Did it have spine ticks?
No, this one, I think this one that he had graded at a near mint, and it's around there. It's an 8 or 9 somewhere around. It's a beautiful copy. I just wanted no scuff marks anywhere on the black, and the picture I didn't sell. So I was like, for $10, I'll take a chance, and it's really nice. So now I have this one to put in my collection along with the scuffed one. But I was like, you know what? I just want to thumb through my Mr. X's and not see scuff marks on this cover. Because like I said, it was my first, and I have to show you this too, just because I'm going to have to get a new copy of this one. This is Mr. X #14, which I don't think I ever read this copy. Because what happened was I got this copy like 20 years ago. When like mycomicshop.com first came online, and I was ordering a lot like the fill-in issues. I was ordering a lot of like $2 comics, and this was one of them. But then I also got the hardcover, which I read back then in like 2010. But I didn't realize that this issue isn't in the hardcover. I didn't realize it till this time. I read it, but it didn't make an impact in my head because Dean Motter redid this last issue for the hardcover because he was like, we had a fill-in artist. I was just phoning it in. I didn't really like it. So it was like for the hardcover, he made a new issue 14. So, and I didn't kind of realize it till this last time through. So I was like, let me read the original 14. So I went back and read the original 14, and this is the worst misstaple I've ever seen. Let me go solo. Hold on here. I don't even know if you can see it, so I'll get a pen to point at it. Where is it? This right here in the black is the staple.
Oh.
It's half an inch into the comic. And then the other staple is up here. It's only about 1/8 of an inch into the comic. But because of that, it doesn't even open up all the way because the staple is stapled right there.
Wow, I've never seen that.
I have never seen that either. I was like, wow,
that's an ultimate misprint. Is it misprint
or bad misstaple?
It's a misstaple, but is it considered a misprint?
I guess it would be called a production error.
Yes. Yeah, it would definitely be a production error.
Kind
of like that's what would happen with, huh?
They wouldn't. CGC doesn't take away in the grade for production errors, but I don't see how. I mean,
yeah, like that's wild.
But one of these days, I'll get a new Mr. X 14 that's stapled properly. After all, it's like $3 on mycomicshop.com. So, but they didn't have, when I was ordering, they didn't have a number 4. And also, mycomicshop.com only has stock photos for their photos. So I couldn't have told if there were scuffs in the black or not. But that's a crazy misstaple.
That is wild. Oh,
I had that book for like 20 years now. I never looked at it and noticed. I'm very lucky in the fact that I sell my art through craft councils. I'm part of the Hand of the Maker actual analog medium is the only thing my customers are looking for. That's good. I'm so intrigued by Mr. X at this point. I've been enjoying it. Highly collectible misstaple. An AI error. AI error.
Yeah, that's what the AI does. It puts feet on the face sometimes. Or staples in the comics.
So I only got 3 comics this week.
Thank you, Image.
Thank you, Roy, for going on vacation. I'll live. Usagi Turtles. I thought this was going 6 issues, but this is the last issue.
I got it as well.
You got it as well? Have you read it yet?
I have not. I snuck to the comic book shop today, and I picked up the last 3 weeks of books. And the only one that I read, there's a ding on this. The only one that I read was Savage Dragon.
Okay.
That I got to read on the train on my way back home. So I got
to read. His move to San Francisco?
His move to San Francisco. Here is the cover.
There we go. I like that cover.
It's a great cover. It's issue 266.
It was a little risque for one of my YouTube watchers. I forget which one. He was like, that cover's a little risque for me.
So it's like the next chapter, and it's like an all-American family. They're moving to San Francisco, and it did take me a moment to realize why the cover was risque.
You're such a New Yorker.
I am completely a New Yorker with it, because as I was looking at it, it was like I'm reading it on the train, and then it took me a minute to go, hey, that is not everyday wear. Or maybe for her, she is. Here's the back cover, which has some great images of all these characters.
Oh, yeah.
So it doesn't look like Eric was using AI to color this one. He just decided one solid color for each character. And what I also found interesting about this book is that he has quite a few funnies in the background, in the back of the book.
He occasionally does. I think he just gives people a chance to print their. Chris Gerusso's stuff was in the back of a lot of Savage Dragons for years.
And this is a cool idea. This is something that I thought about doing in my own books, and I had collected artwork from various Marvel artists over the years to put on the back of it. I did that with one of Jacob Shabbat's story, The Beetle, and he like made, I think, I don't know if it was one single page or like multiple pages for the book. That it was like, unfortunately, I never got to publish the book, but he eventually he did not give me the original artwork. He gave me the artwork so I could put it into the book, and then he had eventually was like, "Oh, can I use this for something else?" I was like, "Yeah, go right ahead." It's his character. It was just something at the time I thought, "Oh, if I could get these published in time, it would be a nice backup thing just to do it," because when you're doing your creator-owned stuff, you want to have fun with it and add extra stuff to it.
The only good
that was
drawing
the
of
only one I
Stay Puft
read.
the Marshmallow Man ever.
Yes.
Have you ever seen that
I've
blog
seen
or
it.
webpage or whatever?
I've seen it, and I'm entertained by the concept, and I told him the fact. And for those people who don't know, Jacob drew a really cool Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and he posted it, or was it printed in something? Was it posted or
I
printed?
don't remember.
It might have been posted online, and people
Jacob's
decided
a good artist. He did a lot of SpongeBob stuff, amongst other things.
Right. So I don't know if he might have done that for one of the coloring books, because he's done coloring book art as well.
I thought he originally did that just for fun, but I'm not sure.
He may have. He very well may have done it for
he's
fun.
Stay Puft Marshmallow Man is a big marshmallow guy from Ghostbusters.
So he did a wonderful drawing, and it got onto the internet. He might have posted it himself, and then people just started redrawing it or just copying it,
ripping it
off completely and published it himself. And I've
tattoos it's been made into.
Fascinated on how many items he collected showing that artwork, because I think he put it on a blog. I
don't even know if it was him who did that or a fan of his.
I don't know. I thought it might have been him, because I know it eventually ended up on a blog being talked about.
I don't even think that was his blog. Someone was, and the name of it was "The Only Cool Drawing of Stay Puft the Marshmallow Man," and then it had collected all the places that Jacob's drawing was ripped off by.
So I told Jacob years ago, you should take all those images and publish a book and reclaim it, because it is based on your artwork.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how a cool piece of artwork like that is just more than inspired people. They just went ahead and took it and ran with it.
Well, I bought the Crow from IDW. What a dissolution!
No, disappointment.
Disappointment?
Yeah.
Is that what he's telling us? You didn't like the Crow? Looking forward to that Savage Dragon. I didn't like the Crow. I remember liking the Crow, but I haven't read it since the 90s.
I don't think I've ever actually read it. I know more of it because of the movie, of course. I do remember maybe picking up an issue or two. And I know that we had some original artwork at Marvel, because he did like a 5 or 6 page story for, like, I think Marvel Comics Presents or something. And it was like, so that's how I'm aware of his artwork, but I never really followed the Crow story itself, and I didn't even know IDW put anything out.
Yeah, I bought the original miniseries back when it came out in the 90s, or was it the late 80s even?
I think it's the late 80s.
Good drawing, dark, angst-filled. Like I said, young Jared liked it. I don't know how old Jared. I have a trade paperback of it still. Matter of fact, Raphael Richer, who used to work with at Marvel, bought my original issues of it. He was such a big fan of it. He was like, "I'll give you money, buy me," and he gave me a decent price for them of whatever they were worth in the late '90s. I was like, "Sure, you love them more than me. Go right ahead."
Right. And I think I also have a McFarlane action figure or McFarlane statues. Those back then when McFarlane made toys, they weren't action figures. They were statues that moved their arms.
Too much color and a silly script. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how the script would have aged. I remember there was a lot of, angsty, dark, late 80s angsty stuff in it. And it was about his like girlfriend dying or something. There was a lot of his real life angst into which is what moody goth indies liked about the book. But it definitely was not a mainstream book.
Yeah. Well, I always thought that the Crow's appeal was primarily visual.
Yeah, could be. The art that's what was appeal to me. I liked the art. Oh, not the original. Oh, it's a new. I didn't.
It's a new.
IDW is putting on a new Crow. Okay, he loves the original. All right, I didn't know.
Oh,
I have
okay,
no idea.
I had no idea
IDW
they were
was
working on
putting
something
a new
new.
Crow. Wow, that changes that. I don't.
Yes, I think IDW had already done that with the Rocketeer, and now with the Crow.
Yeah, the Rocketeer. I've read some of that Rocketeer stuff. It's fairly. I got the one that had Adam Hughes Rocketeer, and I bought a couple of Rocketeer stories. I bought just for the art. It was one comic that came out last month or something. I showed it here, but I don't even remember it. The art's pretty, but the stories are which is what I thought of the original Rocketeer. Loved the Dave Stevens art, but
right.
Here's something new. I got a couple of first issues this week. I got The Ribbon Queen by Garth Ennis and Jason Burrows with Guillermo Ortega and Dan Brown. Inks are by Ortega and colored by Dan Brown, lettered by Rob Stein, cover by Declan Shalvey. It's a Declan Shalvey cover. Issue 1 of 8, and I'll probably be getting all 8 of these. I enjoyed it. Who's putting this out? AWA. Some decent art. Let me go big here. Where's my solo button? And what was interesting was the beginning, nearly the whole thing was a police procedural. See that big guy right there? Mm-hmm. He's a cop who this woman here suspects may be involved with a murder. So he's just kind of warning her off. So we get a murder of a woman, maybe related to that cop. So the first 20 pages are all police procedural. Then at the end, we get the big reveal of, let me do this again. Well, I'll give you the reveal. We'll spoil it just so you know it's not a police procedural. This is why it's called The Ribbon Queen. All of a sudden, this guy is being cut up into literal ribbon-sized pieces of flesh, seemingly mystical, doesn't seem to be any scientific. It seems to be just happening. So now, and I think that was, if I remember right, that was the cop who she was questioning, who's warning her off. So now I'm guessing we're getting into the horror of this cop trying to track down this woman who walked by her, we think, who might be, well, since it's called The Ribbon Queen, I'm guessing it's a woman. So I don't know. I guess the rest of it's going to be a police procedural with horror elements, with, magical realism. I think that's called. It was a good first issue. I liked the police procedural part, and then it hooked you with the blood and guts at the end. So if you look, I don't think I've read any Garth Ennis in a while. What is it?
Not that I recall.
Hark the Herald by Tim Seeley. That's the new Crow. Okay. Yeah, I can't remember the last. I'm trying to think of the last Garth Ennis. I read a little of that stuff I think he did for AWA about cops going into a warehouse or something. That was pretty dull. Don't even remember the name of it. I read a bunch of issues of it digitally and was just like, I can't take this anymore. Nothing's happening. It's cops going to this warehouse that's really, really scary. And they come out all changed and they're FBI agents too, because the warehouse is really, really scary. And 4 or 5 issues in, we have no idea what's scaring them. I went, I don't care what's scaring them, and threw it aside. A dude can be a queen nowadays. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. That Burma World War II story. That was Garth Ennis. Yeah, that may have been the last thing from Aftershock, the graphic novel size ones. That's right. That's the last Garth Ennis I read. Those were good. Did you get anything else at the shop?
Yeah.
Lion and the Eagle or something. Yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah, I'm just putting them in somewhat of an order. So, and taking them out of the sleeve so I could show them on the video so they don't shine. So I have Amazing Spider-Man 29 and 30.
Oh, okay.
Issue 29. And issue 30 is the cover that I'm enjoying. That's a fun looking cover because both Spider-Man and Doc Ock seem to have tentacles.
Is that Bagley?
This is... No, I think this is Ed McGuinness.
Okay.
Let me just double check. That looks like his signature. Never could find where they put people's credits.
Yeah, I know. It's like, where are the credits?
For them.
Are they on the last page, the first page, the third page, somewhere in the middle?
I'm almost positive it's Ed McGuinness, only because
we'll go with Ed McGuinness then.
Because the issue is drawn by McGuinness, penciled. Variant, so they were variant cover artists, but I usually try to get the generic cover. Yes, Ed McGuinness and Marco Menez, Menys.
Okay.
Marco Menez. So, yeah, fun cover.
Yeah.
I'm guessing McGuinness is doing a new art style because it's been a while since I've looked at his stuff, and it's not that it's new; it has changed from what I'm used to.
Right. I haven't seen Ed McGuinness in a long time. His work.
Yeah, he's a nice, cool 2-page spread. There's a lot of energy. His stuff, his older stuff, used to be big and blocky.
Mm-hmm.
So this looks to me has more.
Looks like there's a little Bagley influence there.
Yes, I think so too.
He's not copying Bagley or anything, but
no, but I think there's an influence there, especially as I mentioned in the energy of the characters. They seemed a little more movement. McGuinness in the past used to be a little stiff.
Yeah,
but I think this has more that you could see an influence there.
Mm-hmm.
That I think with Bagley, where I think maybe he's having more fun with these than the older stuff that I'm used to. So those are the 2 Spider-Man books. I also have Superman's Night Terrors. This is issue number 1, so I don't think this is from the regular. Oops, forgot to take it out of the. I think this is DC's current big crossover event, where everyone's having nightmares.
I was just watching
a
guy on TikTok saying how much he's enjoying that.
I'm really liking the artwork in here. It has a nice classic look to it. I guess they're retelling his origin and what is the nightmare to the origin? I don't know what it would be. It has almost a Cook style of art. He's drawing Supermans with the eyes closed. Let's see if I get the person's name on this one. Joshua Williams is the writer. Tom Riley is the artist.
I don't know if I know his work.
It has a almost cartoony, classic Supermanish,
Oh yeah.
style. So I think I will enjoy this because that's the kind of artwork I do like. It's
It looks like
clean, open.
it looks almost like manga Steve Rude.
Yeah, so it looks pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it.
And last but not least, a Godzilla comic from IDW, Godzilla Monsters and Protectors.
I just ordered a Godzilla comic on File Order Cutoff last week.
Oh, did you?
It's a one shot. I liked I don't know who the artist was, but I was looking at his stuff going, oh, this looks pretty cool. It was like an $8 one shot. I was like, you know what? I had no comics that week on my pull list. I was like, I'll order this Godzilla one. I wish I knew the artist's name, but I didn't know it before I ordered it. So.
And speaking of Godzilla, I didn't show these because these are the catalogs, but DC is doing a crossover. I love a crossover with Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong.
I saw the Jim Lee cover of that was posted, which had like a giant Batman robot fighting Godzilla.
Oh yes, they had the giant Batman. Here it is, but it's tiny. I don't know if we'll be able to see it well.
Oh yeah.
And the gimmick that I have to read about, because it's like, don't miss the raw sound effect variant covers. So I don't know if these variant covers are going to be just because you show the monster look like they're rawing, or if they're going to be some sort of technology thing.
Sound chip?
Where sound, I don't know if it will be a sound chip or if it will
That would be fun, like one of those greeting cards.
That would be pretty neat. So these are the various covers that they're doing for that particular series. So I'm looking forward to that because, again, the crazier the crossover, the more I seem to love it.
I thought of you this week when I was in the shop, and I was like, I can't remember the crossover. It was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles somebody.
Let's see. They crossed over recently with Power Rangers. They're crossing over with Stranger Things.
Wow.
Which is the Netflix series. And they crossed over, well, Usagi Yojimbo, so you have that. And they did Batman a while ago.
Yeah, I can't remember which one it was, but I was like, that's a weird crossover. I was like, Wilson will probably get it. That's for him.
Yep.
And one I picked up off the shelf this week was something called Space Outlaws. Name that Clint Eastwood poster. I forget which one it is, but it's by a guy written and drawn by Marco Fontanilli. And he's got a really interesting graphic designy style. I really liked I think this is going to be 3 issues. It was what? $7 for 48 pages. Well, 47 pages, really. There was an ad on the last page. It's had some pretty good, like I said, he really was going for some sort of graphic design drawing in it, which there was some really nice stuff in the graphic design drawing. There's a couple of places. What kind of let me down with it? No, I mean, I'm going to buy the next 2 issues just because I did like it. But man, the lettering. They used a font. Oh, there's There's a nice good monster eating his face page. Let me show you if I can. Let me see if I can get this font in. It's not a comic book font. There's one. This down here. And it really shouldn't be all caps. Because this font wasn't built to be read in all caps. It's not because most comic books are in all caps, but comic book letterers for generations now have done their best because first of all, it's harder to read the human eye. It's harder to read stuff in all caps. But in the comic book tradition, they make it easy. They purposefully, all that hand lettering for years, they always was spaced out so that no one's ever had any problem reading comic book fonts in all caps because they're built that way. Hand lettering was built that way. Even now, Wilson, you use all caps for a bunch of your stuff, right? That's
it's still the norm. Yeah,
still the norm. But a comic book font is built to be read in all caps. That's part when you're designing a font. You don't even think you make it comfortable to be read in all caps. Normal fonts aren't like that. So this font was, first of all, it was hard to read, because all the ascenders and descent, they all had the same weight to them. They're all stacked one up against it. So it was kind of hard to read because the font wasn't built for it to be read in all caps. And secondly, here's a production mistake. They printed the font in a rich black. And Wilson knows what that means. But for those who don't, there's two types of blacks in comic books. There's rich black and there's 100K. 100K is just the black plate. Comic books are done in 4-color printing. You've got a black plate, a cyan plate, a magenta plate, and a yellow plate. 100K black, you don't have any of these 3 plates in. You just have 100 black, 100K. Sometimes, as a matter of fact, all the time, people want a darker black. So what do you do when you want a darker black? You put some color in the cyan plate, in the magenta plate, and the yellow plate. So now instead of 100% K, you've got 100% K plus whatever number. 60, 40, 40 is what it's supposed to be, but it's not. People use more than that, and it makes a mess of things. But for lettering specifically, you always want a rich black. You don't want those colors under there because letters are really small. And if the black plate shifts left or right, it makes the lettering look fuzzy because the Ben-Day dots from the color plates shift away from the black. And you really can't see them, but it makes the lettering look fuzzy. So that's what happened here. Not only did they pick a font that isn't meant to be read in all caps, they then printed it in a rich black. So the lettering would get extra fuzzy sometimes. Now, Wilson and I are probably the only 2 people who are going to notice this. But other comic book fans are going to say, that lettering is hard to read. That's all they're going to get to, but they're going to say that lettering is hard to read and not want to read it. That's going to knock off a certain amount of readers. Who they don't even know why they don't want to read it. They just notice the lettering's hard to read. So they're like, you know what? I'll get one where the lettering isn't hard to read. So that's the problem when you do lettering like this. It's not an obvious thing to everybody. It's obvious to me. It'll be obvious to Wilson. But it kind of gives your book a higher rate of attrition than it would have if you did it correctly. So that despite the fact that I liked this and I'm going to get the next 2 issues, I really wish they hadn't screwed up the lettering. And I can understand why they picked that. The font actually goes with the art pretty well, as long as you're not reading it.
Yeah. That's more of a, from what I could see, for what you showed me, that's more of a designer font. That's something
Yeah.
that you would put in the background on a sign or on a
Right.
computer readout, something that you could glance at, but not be something that you're typically going to read on a constant level.
It is not what a designer would call body copy. In fonts, there's body copy and there's display copy. Body copy is what you use in a book. When you're going to read an entire book with a font or a magazine, that's a body copy font. It's meant to be easy for you to read page after page after page of. Display fonts and comic book fonts kind of fall, it's like sound effects or display fonts, but comic book lettering has to be body copy. Even though they don't call it that in lettering, the lettering in a comic book has to be easy to read page after page of. So that was meant as a display font, especially in all caps. You can't put that one in all caps and use it as body copy. But they did. And they're going to lose some readers because of it. That's what makes me go, ah. And they won't know why they lose readers. It'll be one of those things where they're just like, wonder what happened. Let's see what we got. Horrible price, Jared, but looks excellent art-wise. Yeah, like it's actually not a horrible price when it's 48 pages for $7. I mean, it's a horrible price to try out for $7. But 48 pages for $7 is actually $3 an issue, which I just heard the same guy I was watching on TikTok said the October issues of Marvel are going up to $5 an issue. September issues are all $3 or $4 an issue. October issues are all $5 an issue. Same page count. What's Paulo buying, if anything?
Not yet.
No, maybe add more text. Writing for $7. I love a good story along with her. Like, I'm okay with the price in that it was a double-size issue, but it's hard to take a chance on something for $7. I passed it up the first time I looked through it. Then I came back later on as I was chatting in the comic shop. I'm like, you know what? I may as well buy that. I'm not getting anything wrong. Mr. Mixinflix is hard to read or an alien language. This is fine. More word balloon story for $7 at least. He wants more writing for his money. I understand that. That makes sense.
This book did remind me of another space cowboy that was around many years ago. J. David Spurlock created a comic that kind of looked like that one. It had a space cowboy bounty hunter and Robot Hitler from the Castle Wolfenstein game.
By the way,
the villain was Robot Hitler.
This space cowboy, not in the book.
Oh,
I'm sorry. That's wild.
The space cowboy is some killer robot. It doesn't look anything like Clint Eastwood in a hat. And he only showed up at the very end. I think maybe if this guy shows up in the second issue, I'm wrong. But he wasn't in the first issue.
Okay. And is the robot? Does the robot look like Hitler?
Let's see what the robot looks like. Some killer space parasite creature escaped prison. There's the space robot.
It looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has a Terminator
nothing like that.
Look.
Oh, I guess. Oh, since we see his ribs through there, I'm guessing now that the space robot we're the space robot looking at this guy. So this is what the space robot sees.
Oh, okay.
APOV.
I get it now. Not that the cowboy inside looked particularly like that, but I guess there's another big shot of a space robot. Like I said, nice art, nicely designed. There was a couple of places where where the art was really nicely, about 2 or 3 pages, so it wasn't much. Where the art storytelling was really nicely declined, but the balloon placement was off. So it was like you're following the art down here and you totally skipped this balloon up in this corner. And it's like, oh, you drew my eye along there nicely. Why'd you put a balloon up there? So.
Did the artist do the lettering as well?
Let's see who did the lettering. Like one of the reasons I was like, oh, he's an auteur. I should pick this up. Created, written, and illustrated by Marco Fontanilli, and there is no letterer credited, so he did it himself.
Okay.
2 production guys. Oh, one of them once again is Marco Fontanilli. The other guy is Marcus Guillory. Someone tell these production guys you don't do rich black lettering. I guess not everybody knows everything. Mm-hmm. But that's something the printer will say to you. Do you really want to print this? That always, if there have been pages that I've done for Bad Idea where there's accidentally RGB or rich black lettering on like 1 page out of 32. I don't know how it happens. Just that one. And like Karen, who's our print broker, who also looks over the pages, will bounce it back to me. She'll like, you this page is rich black. Can you fix it? I'm like, sure, and I fix it. And I'm like, how does that even? I guess the printer will sometimes go. Will bounce it back. So I don't know who they're using to print or why it's didn't bounce back, but there probably is a small place, maybe print on demand, different method, but.
Yeah, and it depends on who's the go-to in-betweener type of thing. I've been lucky where most of the places that I work with, I may be dealing with the printer directly because it depends. Because again, it depends on the company. As a freelancer, you work for many different people. So there have been times where I would be dealing with either the production guy of the company, where it's like, here's the work, they take it and they go with it. That's how it is at Mad Cave, where it's like paper cuts. I do it to a certain point and I send it in, and then something may get bounced back. 1 or 2 things may get bounced back. And then for other companies, I'm talking directly to the printers going, okay, what needs to be changed? Because again, as you mentioned, you could be on a graphic novel that's 97 pages, and for some reason, one of them is RGB.
Yeah.
Don't know how it slipped through, but it happens.
Right. Speaking of Mad Cave Studios and the furtherance of our how are these guys making money? This week, Mad Cave Studios hired 3 new editors. Like, they don't have any comics. How are they making money? I mean, I got Don't Spin in the Wind from them.
Since I know I don't see the Mad Cave portion of the stuff, I only see the emails from the paper cuts portion. I am bothered, and this is only because I have no idea what's going on. I know 2 editors that left, but I don't know if they were leaving to pursue other things. I just get an email, such and such is no longer here. Send your emails to this person. But these new people, as far as I'm aware of, are Mad Cave portions, because their stuff, they're still doing their own set of comics.
So at least they're replacing people. They're not just.
I'm guessing so.
Okay.
I have not met these new people, but I do know that at least 2 people that I'm actually 4 people I'm aware of has left Paper Cuts.
Okay.
And I guess that these people could be replacing them.
Yeah, that would make a little more sense to me than just them hiring 3 new people. Because Paper Cuts, I can understand how they're making money because I see their books, and they're aiming for a completely different market, and they got a lot of kids' books, and I can understand how they're making money.
Right.
Mad Cave Studios. Like I said, I got Don't Spit in the Wind. I thought that was a good book from them, but it was only 4 issues, and I'm sure that it wasn't a bestseller. You know, nothing I buy is a bestseller. That's like, you know, if if you're satisfying my taste, you're probably in trouble because I'm not in the mainstream. And their other
And
books don't seem like they've got anything I've ever heard of.
well, they just announced.
Uh-huh.
Did they just announce it? I want to make sure I'm not. Yes, they announced it. They have the license to do Gatchaman comic books.
Okay.
G-Force, but the original is called Gatchaman. So they're doing a set of comics. So I know those comics are being worked on because I did ask if I could letter those. I haven't heard back about that. Um, so I am aware of some comic titles that they're
That's
working on.
good.
I have not seen like a catalog from them. I also didn't go looking for it. I
I
haven't actually sat down and went looking for these books yet, but I do know they do produce books because at the last convention I was at with them, which was the New York Comic Con, they did have a bunch of titles. None that I picked up, but they did have a bunch of titles on the table.
Mhm.
So again, I have no idea how they're making their money. I'm hoping they
Yeah.
keep making money.
Yeah. I
As
hope they give me
long
more
as they're making.
books like Don't Spit in the Wind.
Mhm.
Let's see. What do we have here? No. Yeah, 48 pages. Yeah, it was a big book. So communication is horrible, Ramos?
No, 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 no. I only communicate with paper cuts, and my editor, she keeps me informed of the stuff that I'm doing. So there are, work is happening. I just got a new issue just came in that's ready for me to work on. That came in just as the show started. So my editor Stephanie, she does a wonderful job communicating with me what I'm working with her on. The Mad Cave portion is a different portion of the company. I don't really I get I get put on emails on certain things. By the way, here's this announcement, that announcement, and I take it. Okay, that's interesting. And when I post what I'm doing on Instagram and stuff like that, they make it a point to like it and say, "Hey, this is cool," kind of a thing. So there is communication, but there's no day-to-day activity that I need to be aware of other than the
Right.
books that I'm working on. I work freelance and they keep me posted on what I need to worry about, which is, how I like it because
Yeah.
there's no reason to like send me a press release to me about anything in particular because I'm going to see it on Facebook or whatever. So I do know that Mike posts stuff a lot of times and I'll, have a reaction to it and says this is cool and it goes on from there. So communication is perfectly fine. I do not. I do work for Paper Cuts. It's a Mad Cave company, but I don't deal with the Mad Cave day-to-day type stuff. And I'm sure if I sent an email going, "Hey, can I get some Mad Cave books?" they would probably send me some.
What does he say here? I work for blue collar company similar, so good luck as long as you're getting paid. Yeah.
Yeah, my pay has not been affected with the new with the change of the new company. As a matter of fact, I would say it's been uh, it's been more steady in the sense of I put in the voucher and the payment is a lot quicker than what it used to be.
Ah.
So again, so far so good. I can't complain.
Oh, and I backed Dean Haspiel's Billy Dogma Kickstarter this week too. And once you get the John Babcock's prediction that I've said here before, that when he said in the future comic books are going to be like poetry, they're going to be made in small runs for people who can afford them. It's coming more and more true because Dean, who's, man, I haven't seen him in almost 20 years now, but he's a friend of mine. I went to college with him, knew him all through the 90s when he was king of the mini comics. I think with shipping, one comic, his new one, 48-page comic, was what, $32? I was like, whoa, this is the most expensive. Kickstarter's like, I always say Kickstarter's the most expensive way to buy comics. So I was like, oh, if it wasn't Dean, I wouldn't be paying $32 for it. But since it is, I am. But that's what Kickstarter is sometimes. It's just like, whoa, these comics are expensive. And they'll throw in an occasional like for the last one, which I think was a little bit cheaper than that. I've got some sort of, I don't know where it is now, bottle opener. It was the COVID cop bottle opener. But I'm guessing since this is more expensive than COVID cop, he probably didn't predict his money well. Because I know that's what happens with Kickstarters too. You think you only need this much money, but then other things pop up.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people get hung up on the postal. That tends to be where it will sneak up on you because again, the problem with the postal service, when you start your Kickstarter and by the time you get to actually print those books, prices will change on the postage. That's just unfortunately one of those things with the system. And since comics is not supposed to go through media mail,
right?
That becomes a problem, and it's like they have yet to like reevaluate why comics do not go through the media mail. And it has to deal with ads and stuff like that. But and I know this through fighting through eBay, because a lot of the comics that we sell on eBay are collectible books. Those ads are no longer viable, but because they exist, they do not go through media mail, or they're not supposed to. Some people will sneak it in, and it's like until they get caught, they'll do that. They'll sneak it in. So that's one of the problems that I see with kickstarting a project is that whole sense of having to mail it. Another one is printing cost, of course.
Oh yeah.
Because it gets less expensive if you print it overseas, but the problem with that is the shipping from overseas is going to cost you. The physical picking it up from someplace like the harbor. If you're at a city port to pick it up from China, because it'll be dropped off from a China ship, because they're the ones that are the least expensive. Or if you're going through Canada or wherever you're printing it, and print on demand is very expensive. So that's where the cost ends up going.
Oh yeah.
Where it eats it up to there. Yeah.
I have no doubt that $32, which I think, which like $5, $8, $6, $8, whatever it was for shipping, is in that too. I have no doubt that that's what he has to charge to make money.
Yeah.
I have no doubt. He's not going to be making $500,000 after this Billy Dogma Kickstarter. Like I said, I don't bring. It's just like I said. John Babcock's prediction is coming true. It's short run comics for people who can afford them.
Yep.
Meanwhile, I finished reading this giant thing, Black Science. This is the Rick Remender, Matteo Scalera comic that I got. There's 43 issues in here for $60. Is that the price? Yeah, 43 issues for $60. So there's the economy of scale and reprints for you. But I gotta say, I liked it. But
black and white or color?
Color.
Oh, okay.
Color.
Nice.
43 issues, $60. I actually want to read it again because I'm not sure if it's deeper than I think it is or shallower than I think it is. Because the plot is so convoluted. And there's so much in it. The basic story is at the beginning, the main character is this scientist, Reed Richards-like brilliance, who invents this way to travel to alternate dimensions. They call it the Onion, where all these dimensions are like the layers of the onion, an infinite onion of some kind. Okay. Now we've got he's the head guy. He's the guy. We've got his two children, who somehow they call themselves Dimensionauts. So we have him, his two children, this other guy who's sort of a military guy, this suit, this guy, this company guy who's the suit, and we've got his lab assistant who he's having an affair with. So these 6 people are our original Dimensionauts, they call them. Meanwhile, the other, character who's in the book is his wife, who's back home. And they go, the 6 of them go into another dimension. That's how it starts. This first issue, they're going into another dimension. And from then on in, it's just chaos. So the main themes of the 43 issues are the scientist guy is betrayed by the suit, the administration guy who somehow sabotaged the dimensional portal. Why he'd want to do that, I'm not 100% sure. Meanwhile, the kids resent his assistant when they find out because they found out he's having an affair with her. Meanwhile, the mother's back home being resentful. So they move over to this other dimension. Now they can't get back. Now it's like Lost in Space or something, where they keep traveling between dimensions. Some of them die. Some of them live. But I think some of them die, but are replaced. But all of a sudden, different versions of them start showing up because he invented the same machine in different realities. So then it just becomes chaos as all these factors, they can't control their device anymore. But meanwhile, other scientist guys who can control their device show up. Some of them die. They get some of their device. I don't know if our original scientist guy who started at the beginning is the same guy who's ended the story. I'm not sure. This is one of the reasons I want to read it again. Besides, it was fun. And so then somehow in the middle of the story, the scientist guy and his wife get together because their kids are missing. Somewhere in all this dimension hopping, they lost the kids. So now their whole motivation is to get their kids back. And all the other original 6 people keep showing up from different dimensions. And I'm not sure if any of them are the original ones, if the original ones died, if there's new. I'm not sure which versions are going through, but they're all kind of the same people. Meanwhile, some version, they also picked up a Native American shaman who's got magical powers. The kids actually grew up in some dimensions. He finds his daughter in one dimension, and she's grown up and about to be and married and is revered in this planet and is being married to this sort of prince of the planet. And the father takes her out of there, and she ends up in another world where she's like nobody, and she's like, what happened to my husband? And it's like, and there's this point in here where, and also what's going on is as they're doing all this stuff, it's wrecking the multiverse. They have some explanation for it where every time they transfer from one multiverse to another, it lets antimatter into it. It may let antimatter into, and he's just like wrecking entire universes. He is trying to find his kids. And meanwhile, all these other alternate worlds who can change dimensions are trying to develop ways to stop him, because he's leaving a trail of death behind himself, this scientist guy. But he won't stop looking for. He's like, would you stop looking for your kids? He's like, and everybody's like, you're destroying untold quadrillion million kids. Stop it. But he won't. And at one point he says, I'm the antagonist and protagonist of my own story. And I'm like, dude, you are not the protagonist in this story. You're the antagonist in this. So it's like we keep getting different mixes of these 6 people and other people coming in. Like one later on in the series, we get a few issues where, and it's not his daughter. It's his daughter from another dimension. And her whole job in the multiverse is to drive to get him and his wife to stop looking for their kids. Because they keep just killing quadrillion. They just keep killing multiverse after multiverse. Just because they keep moving. And he's like, no, I will never stop looking for my kids. So she has tried, she's like a psychiatrist who's tried to talk them out time after time and ends up killing most of them, her parents, because they just won't stop. But this one set escaped and just kept going. And it's just like, the story is insane. And the plot is so twisted. And it's like, who are the good guys here? Because the guy, the suit, I forget his name, maybe the suit who like betrayed him at the beginning also used to be the boyfriend of his wife. So he always wanted her back, but the scientist got the girl. So always resented him for that. But meanwhile, this suit guy is one of these guys who he kind of takes he's not brilliant like the scientist, but he tries to take credit for stuff. And he's kind of the antagonist of the story, except he's actually always trying to do the right thing. He may not be a good guy, but he's trying to set things in order. The scientist guy is just causing death and chaos behind him. The suit guy is trying to set things in order, but the scientist guy doesn't like his order. There's a real order and chaos thing going there. So there's, like I said, I'm not sure if it's deeper than I think or shallower than I think. It's one of the two. I don't have to read it another time. But there was also, what is crazy too, is to give away another plot point that happened in the middle somewhere of this book, is the brilliant scientist guy traded his intellect to a witch to save his daughter. So for like the second, third, or half of the book, the brilliant scientist guy isn't brilliant anymore. He can't even fix his own stuff, but he still won't stop looking for his kids and wrecking things. It's like, and the witch, meanwhile, becomes the big bad villain, sort of. If he's not the big bad villain. But it was real interesting. So it's definitely worth a read if you ever get your hands on this giant black science. It's heavy. But I don't know if anyone else out there has read Black Science, but let's see. The good old phone book. Yeah. I donated to Dean. He's always been a good guy, and he started Billy Dogma way back in Purchase. Yeah, there's Johnny Bly, one of my Purchase pals. Yeah. I bought Dean's one too. I actually think he started Billy Dogma after Purchase. Well, who was his Purchase character? The guy who Thus I Ride the Roads Alone. Ooh, I can't remember all of a sudden. Because the SUNY Purchase newspaper used to be called The Load, and Dean, John, and I did comics for it. Dean used to be when he was a teen. Dean grew up, I think, in the same apartment building as Larry O'Neill was one of his childhood friends. Larry O'Neill, Denny O'Neill's son. And Flo Steinberg used to babysit. She used to babysit Dean and Larry when they were little. So they were good friends.
Oh, wow.
It's a small world. What was the name of it? Johnny Rocket? Was that the name of Dean's Load character? I read the first 12 issues of Black Science. Good stuff in my recollection. Yeah, it changed so much, too. There was so many crazy plot twist. I wonder what it was like to read monthly. That's one of those where I'm like, Billy Rocket. That's it. Johnny Rocket? Oh, I can't remember. I wonder what Back Science was like to read monthly. I remember people complaining about it changing direction so often. So it ends great or gets better, Jeff? I think it gets better. It ends kind of like I thought it would end, so I don't know if that's great. But it ended. It didn't end unsatisfyingly. But I kind of saw the ending coming in a way, and I usually try not to guess endings. And I only generally saw the end coming. I didn't see the specifics of the plot coming. But yeah, like I said, it's good when I want to read something again. So that means it's good. If I put it down and never want to read it again, that's a bad sign. Mm-hmm.
Birch did a video a couple of days ago where he tried to explain what would have happened to Marvel if they were not bought by Disney.
Huh.
And it's not. He doesn't speculate much. Although there's one thing that I would like to know, and Wilson's the ideal to answer that.
What's that?
If Disney hadn't bought Marvel, would Ike have become more or less cranky?
I don't know if that he could get more cranky.
Wilson, I would. That's hard to figure out because the more he was bat crazy way before Marvel. Mm-hmm. While at Marvel, I think that just made it more. I don't know. He bought Marvel. Him and his partner bought Marvel just so they can keep the toys going for Toy Biz. I think he resented Marvel for having to do that. But again, I don't know. I don't know if it would gotten. I would assume it would have gotten worse.
Yeah,
it was definitely
it would never get better.
Yeah, it couldn't get better. It would have gotten worse, and he probably would have. If it wouldn't cost any money, he probably would have been the first to push the AI before it even got off the ground. If he didn't have to pay anybody, that's what I would guess. Yeah, it would have been better. I don't know how Marvel would have been as a because by the time Disney bought them, they were successful with the movies. They were successful with the movies without him. Anytime he or the other guy touched anything that was entertainment-wise, you got really bad stuff from it. So I would guess it would have gotten worse. There was a reason why the Fantastic Four wasn't publishing books because Marvel wasn't getting the money for the movies. So I think it's that type of thing.
Right.
I just on the Marvel Method Facebook page, I just read something that I didn't know about Martin Goodman. Because we've discussed on here Stan Lee's relationship with Martin Goodman. He was his wife's cousin. And Paulo's take was always Paulo thought he would if Stan wasn't doing the job, he would have fired Stan. He was a good businessman, and I always said, well, due to that he's a relative, he's going to be the last one to be getting fired. And here's what I did. And reading this, he was not only Stan's wife's cousin, he was related to Stan another way too, which I can't remember.
No, Martin Goodman's wife was first cousin to Stanley's mother, but Stanley's
Martin-
mother's brother, Robbie Solomon, so his uncle, was married to Martin Goodman's sister.
But they said that Martin Goodman was actually, the family was close to Stan's family, and Martin Goodwin actually acted as a surrogate father to Stan and Larry Lieber. That's what Larry said in some interviews. That's how close the families were.
No, Larry said that he met Martin Goodman once.
What was that?
Because what I remember was that Larry Lieber said that he met Martin Goodman once before he started working. When he was still a kid, Stan
I'll
took
have
him
to
to
look
the
it up.
office.
It was in Marvel Method today, that group.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to check it out there, but it was just some background on Martin Goodman I hadn't heard before.
I know I read somewhere, maybe we talked about this last week, about Goodman. What was interesting was that realizing that most of the time when we ever hear anything about Martin, it came from Stan.
That's all we know about Martin Goodman came from Stan.
Yeah, and that was like, I never realized that. I never put that together.
Yeah, neither did I.
That was like, everything we heard about him, we heard. There was never any direct contact, and I don't even think any of the artists ever had direct contact, because Stan would say, "I'll run it with Martin and see what happens," and then, they would come back and go, "Well, Martin didn't think it was a good idea."
Right?
Did he ever talk to Martin about those particular things? And it's like, that's
that Jack
wild.
Kirby book I got there. Steve Ditko, I think, said he met him once, and Jack Kirby said he only knew him enough to say hi in the hall. But also, what was I about to say? Oh, it just flew out of my mind. Oh, well, when you think about it too, Martin Goodman hired Stan Lee when he was 19. So he had to know him young.
Yeah.
He didn't just meet him at 19 and hire him. He actually knew him when he was young.
It was Robbie Solomon who hired him.
Oh, okay.
I remember seeing somewhere once that, can't remember where, but Martin was surprised to see me in the office. Like, what are you doing here? Oh, Uncle Robbie hired me.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, he did. Of course. Yeah, you would know. Know, Jewish families, but
right.
But I don't see becoming a surrogate.
That's what they said in the Marvel. I'll have to reread it to see.
But even Stan Lee never referred to Martin that way.
No, but I think when they're for a few years when they're teenagers is all. I don't think Stan Lee saw him as a father figure once he started working for him. He saw him as a distant whatever. And who knows what surrogate father means in that situation? It might not mean what we think it means, and could be the distant adult who looked out for you.
Yeah, maybe we're reading too much into it.
Right. I'm sure Martin Goodman looked out for him, made sure that his mother, because I guess his father wasn't there. But I don't think he might not have been emotionally, available for him. So who knows? But I found that an interesting little thought. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wasn't on Facebook at all that much today, so I didn't come across that particular one.
Mm-hmm. Did you read that Jack Schiff interview from last week that I posted a Dropbox links to?
I downloaded it. I have it on my desktop somewhere, but I did not read through it.
Did you make a read, rip, and slam?
I did. I definitely did. I'm not too sure how to share it, but I did.
Open it up. Just open it up in Photoshop, or I usually open mine in a browser, but you can open it in Photoshop too, whichever you want to open it in. And then just go to present and pick the window.
All right. So I only have one. It's just a special edition one. So I didn't follow any of your rules. So they're all over the place. But let's see if you can spot why they're connected. All right. So present uh screen.
Share screen. Yeah.
Okay.
And select the window that you want.
Share screen and window.
Once you do that, it'll show up on my screen, and I present it.
Chrome has lost permission to capture your screen. To fix it, go to Systems Preferences.
Oh, you've never done that. Okay. You have to go into your System Preferences security and tell it that Chrome can take over your screen so you can share.
Wow.
You can do that later if you want. We'll do it next week.
Okay.
That happens all the time with like Zoom, and I've seen it happen to everybody. It's like, oh yeah, forget that's Mac security. They don't just want any app to be able to take over your screen and do stuff. So you have to tell it that it can. And sometimes you have to restart things in order to. Well, let me share one because I got one here.
All right.
Let's see. What year do I want? You know what? I want to go to 1984. Indie Books, 1984. This is a tough one for me because I like all these. Indie Books, 1984.
Ooh.
All good stuff. We've got Mage issue number 2, Love and Rockets 6, and Cerebus the Aardvark number 6. Oh, I got the wrong names under the wrong ones.
1984. I'm almost sure I saw that Mage on the stands.
You know what? I saw Cerebus. Mage number 1, but I think it came out when I was at college. So I didn't get it on my pull list. So I got Mage number 1 and then get another issue to like 6 and then didn't get another issue to like 12. And I wasn't collecting Love and Rockets that early, and I wasn't collecting Cerebus that early. So despite the fact that I've read all these since then, I did not read them in 1984 when they came out. Matter of fact, just right now, I pulled out my individual issues of Mage because I want to reread Mage. I have the like oversized editions that came out in the late 80s, but I haven't read the individual issues in ages. So it's like I want to read Mage as individual issues. So that's what that's next on my reading list.
So I'm going to read Mage, rip Cerebus, and slab Love and Rockets.
I am going to slab Mage. Read Love and Rockets because I've never read an issue, especially way back that far. And unfortunately, I would be ripping Cerebus.
Ripping Cerebus. So Tit Goblin's got slab Cerebus, read Love and Rockets, rip Mage, Dolphin the Flying Woman, and Cerebus. Ooh.
Yes, I agree that.
I'll slab all 3. That's not
the game.
That's what everybody says if you're not playing the game. But if you're not playing the game,
I'm not going to rip a comic. You're not ripping a comic. They're not real.
And I would Dolphin the Love and Rockets woman who's dancing.
Yeah.
and have the dolphin in that dress.
I agree with Tit Goblin. I will Dolphin the Flying Woman and random penguins.
Flamingos.
Random flamingos, yes. Random flamingos go on top of Kevin's and Murden's heads.
See, I'm putting the random flamingos in the background of that one. They're going to be in the back in front of that purple wall, just kind of checking out the action.
No, the flamingos have to be on top of their heads. That's why Kevin Matchstick is annoyed, because of the flamingos.
Let's see.
I would have the
Reed
flamingos
Mage, Slab Loving
standing
Rockets, Rip Service, Dolphin Bird pulling the skirt and Loving Rockets. Oh, right there. Flamingo sniffing Mage's butt. Sorry, all three images are great. Yeah, that's the whole point. Slab Loving Rockets, Reed Mage, and everyone's ripping Cerebus. I'm going to slab Cerebus.
Okay.
I'm going to slab Cerebus because I'll have the valuable Cerebus slab and you guys won't. And I will, about to Reed Mage, so.
Yeah, it will be worth at least $30.
Yeah.
And I would have the flamingos hanging out in the alleyway with Mage. Not looking at him, but looking towards the reader.
I think I'm going to read Loving Rockets. That means I don't have to rip Mage. Oh, well, I'm going to rip up Mage. You know I don't want to. Got to rip one of them. Only ripping Service because you have to rip one. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. It's like, which one would I?
But everybody seemed to pick Service to rip.
It just happened to work that way.
Which is why my slab now becomes more valuable as the issues of Cerebus number 60 diminish.
I sent the image I created over on the Facebook Messenger. Can you pull it from there?
Okay. Oh, where am I going to put the dolphin? You know what? I'm going to replace the Mage logo with a dolphin. So he's whispering in the Mage's ear up there.
Ooh, okay.
I don't know why that came to me, but it did.
And I almost want to replace those creatures that are flying, pulling on their hair with the flamingos, but again, the flamingos are supposed to just not interact.
Right, they're on their own.
They're like the Watcher. They do not interfere. They just watch.
They don't replace anything.
Yeah, that's why they're random.
Okay, let me download. I wonder if I could share this right from here. Whoops. Settings. I don't want settings. I want present. Do I have that as a button?
Probably not.
I don't have that as a button, damn you. There's no shortcut for present. Share screen, share screen. Let's type Chrome tab because I think it's in there. Window. It's not a Chrome tab, but it's right there as a Chrome tab. All right, hold on. We're going to have to. It won't save it as a Chrome. It won't. Let me save image as. Read rip slab. We'll put it in downloads. We'll open that in Safari, which has been my go-to share thing. There we go. Oh, there's a theme for you. Back to StreamYard, back to present, back to share screen, window.
Back once again with the hill behavior.
There we go.
Ooh.
Rex the Wonder Dog, Power Pack, and Aquaman. Anybody want to guess what the theme is?
Yeah.
These are books that are like 20 years apart from each other, almost 30 years, and yet it almost seems like the same art.
Yeah.
Are they copying
Laugh
each
out loud,
other?
Mr. Ramos. Flamingos hanging out with Mage. Pass the joint, Kevin. Oh, cool.
Okay, so I am going to read Rex the Wonder Dog, rip Power Pack, and slab Aquaman. I am going to dolphin Aquaman.
Whoever you dolphin blends in with the other dolphin.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it?
Yes. I'm all for the chaos on this one.
Oh, you know where I'm putting flamingos. They're going to be hanging out, standing on the Rex logo. Sort of like Statler and Waldorf commenting on the cover.
They're going on the Power Pack comic on that dolphin that's not carrying anyone. but the dolphin's not carrying them. They're just standing on him. Not carrying.
I'm going to slab Rex the Wonder Dog because I just really like that cover. Because it just seems like, because that's the older one, is that the inspiration for the others? I already read Power Pack. Aquaman. I would read the Aquaman and rip Power Pack. And the flamingos, I would put them on the boat. Behind Aquaman. I would just have them in. Now, as far as dolphining something.
How do you put a dolphin on an old dolphin cover? I'm going to replace the Rex the Wonder Dog dolphin with a dolphin. Will you be able to tell?
I am going to dolphin all the Power Pack kids in the corner box.
Okay.
You know what? I may have ripped up that issue of Power Pack before. I'm not sure, but
really,
we used to, back when in the early 90s, when there were comics all over Marvel, we occasionally, to blow off steam, would rip some of them. Sometimes in front of the people who worked on them. I remember doing that to Kevin.
Gosh.
I remember doing that to Kevin Kovacic. Like, Kevin, this is a great issue of Deathlock you drew. And he'd be like,
gosh.
I remember I took an issue of Solo and ripped it in half and made it Loso. So I may have ripped an issue of Power Pack or two. So I'm going to slab Rex the Wonder Dog. Rip Power Pack because it just feels comfortable. Read Aquaman. What do we got here? Ha! First we got very nice. We got Rip Aqua, Read Rex, Slab Power, Dolphin Rex Dog. Okay. Dolphin riding a dolphin. Tough one. Rip Power Pack. See, I want to rip Power Pack and Aquaman. This was tougher for me. I mean, I would enjoy ripping Aquaman too. I just always found him annoying. Read Aquaman and slab Rex. Oh, come on, that's not fair. The three are adorable. I can't rip any of the three. That's not playing the game. You got to make the hard choices if you're playing the game. Got a dolphin, Mr. Teenage, for putting these together.
You have to think of this game.
Slab Rex, Read Aquaman. You have to rip one of them. Dolphin, Spider-Man's thingy. Spider-Man's thingy. Flamingo between Rex's teeth. Dolphins everywhere. Now, did you know these covers beforehand? Were they in your memory somehow?
I think I did a search for dolphin covers.
Okay.
Because in my mind, it was like, there's got to be a bunch of them from different eras. Because it's like, because you could always find a purple ape. And it was like, I wonder how many have has those. That's because I kind of reminded there are things in comics that becomes a trope after a while,
right?
And I find them interesting. For a while, I was very fascinated by water towers on comic book covers because that was a staple in like the Spider-Man comics, Spider-Man, Daredevil. And eventually, it's like I got to see if I can find it, but I had a collection in my files of just water towers on comic book covers, just because that's such a New York thing that I'm aware of. I really don't know if water towers exist the same way outside of New York. But I always found that fascinating that they were, like John Romita Sr. always drew a water tower in the Spider-Man books themselves, and occasionally they would pop up on the covers. So I get fascinated by certain things that would always kind of be shown. So DC is known for putting an ape on the cover because that'll sell the books. So I wonder if there was that type of thing with dolphins. And those three I picked because it's like they almost look like the same dolphin, just flipped. And it's like, I'm curious, did any of them influence the others? Like, oh, I gotta draw a dolphin. Oh, I remember there was one on that cover.
Which I won't have it till till next week. But you remember my 60s pop art covers that I was getting early in the year?
Yes.
Millie the Model, and Archie Laugh comic, and a Bunny comic. I added another one, which is more, not quite pop art. It's more surrealism, abstract expressionism. But it's either from the late 60s or early 70s. I can't remember. But the name of the comic, it's a little dot comic. But it's like Little Dot's Aunts and Uncles, number, I don't know what, 33 or something. I have no idea. But it's got Little Dot. She's standing in front of a painter who's got this surrealist painting on his drawing, and she's painting dots on the floor or something like that. But I was like, oh, that's a cool. I can go in with, I'll expand my pop art to surrealism too covers. Wasn't cheap. It was with shipping was about $18, I think. Which, maybe cheap to some people out there, but that's not, but it's one of those things like, I'll pay $20 for that. Okay. I got an extra $20 to add that to the to that particular collection. And it's supposedly in 8.0 condition, but from the picture it didn't look like it. But it was also one of those, put it on my watch list. The guy gave me a couple bucks off, so I ended up getting it. But that one I'll have off to show off for next week's cover. But speaking of strange things to collect on covers of water towers and art, hey, look who it is showing up for the last few minutes. It's Chris Geruso.
Last few minutes? Is there like a full hour left?
No, we got 25 minutes left.
All right, well, I'm here for it, baby. I'm the villain that shows up. You thought I was dead, but I showed up in the last scene.
All right. I was using your name just before when Raphael. Wilson, I don't know. I must have mentioned Raphael's name earlier. It's still in my brain.
You did, yeah.
Wilson was showing off his latest issue of Savage Dragon, saying he likes the strips in the back of Savage Dragon. I was like, Chris Geruso used to have a lot of his G-Man strips in the back of Savage Dragon.
Used to. Has been.
Now, did you stop doing that, or did he stop doing that?
He stopped asking me for any.
Oh, okay.
I assume just because he had other stuff.
Right.
But couldn't possibly be because he was unhappy with the quality of my work.
Everybody loves G-Man.
I was talking to Jen Grunwald recently.
Yep.
And I mentioned Raphael.
Uh-huh.
She has no idea who Raphael is. I was like, how do you not know?
Not a surprise.
That's a huge surprise.
No. She was always a little self-absorbed, so I can see her not knowing who Raphael is.
No
she
way.
Didn't. I don't know how directly he worked with her.
I think if she saw him, she'd be like, "Oh yeah, that guy."
And it's been a lot of years.
Yeah, fuzzy memory.
I don't remember the last time. I don't know the last time. Uh-oh. These guys are assholes.
Oh, that's right. Chris didn't see the...
Chris never saw his comic. Where did I put those? Holy crap.
Oh, no.
I put them all. Let me see if I can find the digital files of them. Hold on. I actually, since there were stickers on the bag of the comics that Tit Goblin sent me, I switched the bags out. I cut the stickers cut the bag around the stickers and put them in sleeves, in card sleeves. Let's see, where are those? They might still be in my trash because I didn't, or not. That's downloads, not trash. There we go. I found them. Got to take them out of the trash, otherwise they won't open up. Dun, dun, dun. What should I open them up in? Photoshop.
You guys are taking a sneak peek into what production of comics is really like.
Okay, so let's tell Chris this story. Tit Goblin here sent me a bunch of comics. He sent me some Mr. X comics that he found that I was looking for. And on the comics, he drew cartoons of the four of us. So let me show you the cartoons.
And we're all a-holes?
No.
Just only three of us.
Not you.
Let's see. Here's Wilson. Wilson says, "Get me pictures of Spider-Man."
That's pretty good. I like it.
And what else we got here? Here's me. This goddamn tape has no place near my comics. And here's Paulo.
Yes, being insufferable.
Published because in the 4th and 6th century AD, according to the European tradition. And here's Chris Giarrusso. These guys are assholes. Chris Giarrusso So there's your cartoon.
So my question then for Tit Goblin is, how long have you been reading minds?
Because it's
Did you
dead
gain
on.
this power at puberty? Pretty good.
Tit Goblin should do a small cartoon at the end of every live session of the Cavern of Chaos. They were so cool. Yeah, they were good stuff. Good stuff. One last thing I read this week, I finished finally Trots and Bonnie by, what's her name? Shari Flanagan. This is the one that, from the early 70s to the early 90s was in National Lampoon once a month. She did it in this sort of old, and her husband was Bobby London, one of the Air Pirates, underground cartoonist, and she moved into, like in the early 70s, she moved to San Francisco and started dating Bobby London and eventually married him. So she used to hang out in which I didn't realize that the Air Pirates, I forget all their names because I don't really know underground cartoonists that well. Somebody gave them, I forget who it was, gave them like a big warehouse near San Francisco to work in. So they all had their studios there where they'd get together, and she was working there too. And she got a call she met the people at Lampoon, and this is Trots. Trots is the dog, and Bonnie is the girl who's like in junior high. She's around 12 or 13, but they're all sort of bawdy National Lampoon strips. Really, I mean, it started out. It took me a while to read like the first third of it, but like the last 2 weeks, I'm like, let me finally sit down and read some of these. And I really got into them once I decided to, concentrate and actually pay attention to them. But nice stuff, just like, because I'm not Bunch is a big fan of this, our friend Bunch. But he's a huge National Lampoon fan. But I never read National Lampoon at all. but they had some good comics in it. And this was one of them, Trots and Bonnie. When did this come out? Because it's been a long time coming. I think it came out fairly recent, 2020. And what was also cool was, besides the strips, in the back, she has this sort of strip-by-strip breakdown of what she was thinking, what was going on at the time, how she came up with some of the strips, how other people helped her out. And it was just fun to read the behind-the-scenes stuff right here, just like a paragraph for each strip. And that was, I enjoyed that more than I thought I would. It was well done. But there's another, I finished 2 things this week that I've been reading for a while. Trots and Bonnie and Black Science. Have you read anything recently, Chris?
I read the second issue of that Robert Kirkman book. I can't ever remember the title of it. Void Rivals.
Did you like it?
It was fine. Yeah, I liked it.
Okay. Yeah, give us some enthusiasm about it. I didn't pick it up because it wasn't my thing. I'm a little too old and too hip for
when I was
those cartoons that you were the right age for.
Yeah, when I was 11, Transformers was meant the world.
Right. I was 20 at that time.
And,
so
those it still does now.
Those were all the cartoons that weren't not as good as the cartoons when I was 11. That's just the way it goes.
You know what? You wouldn't know.
You're right.
No, you were watching Top Cat.
That's funny. It's like all the cartoons that when I was 11 were from the 60s. And it was the late 70s. It's like there were no cartoons when I was 11, except reruns. Not a lot. But I've used your and Jacob's and everyone else's experience when I hear people tell me how terrible all those cartoons are and how animation was awful in the 80s. I'm like, no, it wasn't.
Wait, who
love those cartoons?
I told you that the Transformers was a terrible cartoon with
no. Other people, like people who are older, my age or older than me, who try to tell me that objectively, cartoons were much more terrible in the 80s. I'm like, no, you were 23. If you were 11, the Transformers would have meant everything to you.
There's a strong case to be made from like when the shift from the golden age of theatrical animation went away.
Yeah.
And the replacement was direct-to-TV animation, which was far more limited. So you can make that case.
But still, kids loved them.
Well, I've still like a lot of those. I'm fascinated with all like the Rocky and Bullwinkle style of animation. Like I can't tell you I love those cartoons. Like I'm not like I can't tell you, but like just looking at them is. There was actually it wasn't even Rocky and Bullwinkle. It was like the Congo Bongo with King Leonardo and True Blue Odie, the Wizard, Mr. Wizard the Lizard, and Tutor the Turtle, which was like it was very much the same style of animation, but it was a different company. I think.
People always want to make their personal experience universal. Like I grew up.
No, they don't.
I grew up with Silver Age comic book fans telling me how much the comics I liked sucked. And if I was around in the Silver Age, I would have read good comics. So that was like my experience at like 10 years old. So it's like these people have been around me forever. And then they say the same thing. It's like, just it's like I don't like Transformers. I don't like G.I. Joe, but I don't like them because I wasn't 10 when they came out, and they're not made for 22-year-olds. Sure, you could still like them at 22 when you first watched them when you were 10, but if you didn't, you're probably not. People like the children's material of their childhood. And that's what they get nostalgic for and are interested in, too.
Except for Brave Star. That sucked.
Brave
I didn't
Star.
know Brave Star. Brave Star was a Native American on TV. They didn't have that. I will not have you, sir, bash Brave Star.
There was one season of a Karate Kid cartoon which was based on the movies, and they tried to make Daniel and Mr. Miyagi globe-trotting adventurers, and that was weird. Yeah.
Comic Crack says such a great collection. She's a killer artist, referring to Shari Flanagan and Trots and Bonnie. I agree with that. We had some good and some weird Eastern European cartoons in the 80s.
Oh yeah.
No, the American ones were a bliss.
The best one was a stop motion animation made in Switzerland in the 70s, which was made by people who did a lot of experimental drugs. And it was called Chappie Chapeau. And okay, so there's no plot. They go into a place of some sort of tesseract of geometric figures, and things pop in and out of existence, and then they leave. Then they come back the next episode and do the same thing again.
I know that some of that, I think The Simpsons parodied it. I've seen some of that weird Soviet animation from like the 60s that some people love. But
yeah,
there
was
crazy,
a Polish.
It was, I think it was Soviet or Ukrainian time when Tom and Jerry went through an age where they were just so badly drawn, and the music was wild because it was whatever was the free music that was able to be added to the animation from overseas. And it is like one of the worst portions of Tom and Jerry, because again, growing up, you would have these cartoons spliced together, and if you're lucky, you get a Hanna-Barbera one, which is beautiful backgrounds, jazz music's playing, and then all of a sudden one from one of the Russian ones will pop up, and it's like, oh my god, what is this? So terrible.
Now, we used to have an anthology show when I was a kid, and we were always promised that we're going to have an American cartoon at the end. Of course, we also had other programming blocks with regular American cartoons, but that one, so it was an anthology, and there were 19 minutes of Eastern European animated shorts, and they would always be introduced something like this cartoon,
the Apple one,
but Apple.
You know what cartoon he's talking about?
No.
I think that popped up during the time that you were speaking about the one on drugs.
Ah, okay.
No, there's no apples there.
I also find animation or lack thereof in Clutch Cargo era of shows interesting. Yeah.
But so that thing at a presenter showcasing each cartoon. This cartoon by Martin Romanek was 4th place and won a silver mention at the animation festival of Bratislava, and then they would show it, and it's something.
I can remember watching, this is in the early 80s, I think it was, or maybe the late 70s, back when we first got cable. And there used to be like a station that showed like weather dials. It was like Channel 8, one of these local stations with like no programming, except you could go there and see like the barometric pressure and things. But then they started putting programming on that at night. And you can find this show on IMDb. I can't remember the name of it, but they would read comic books to you. They would read Sugar and Spike and Adam Strange from the 60s. And this is, 1978. I think Larry Hama read some of them. They just have a camera pointed at a panel, and they'd read it, Adam Strange, the panel to you. And then they'd move to the next panel and read it to you. And I'm told this is, I don't know why we got it on this channel, but according to IMDb, it was early Nickelodeon programming.
Really?
Yeah. And it's like, that's the first time I ever heard of Sugar and Spike, too, because they weren't around in the late 70s, early 80s.
Right. So did they do voices for it? Or it's just a straight read?
No, just a straight read.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Did you have open
on IMDb? But
did you have open access channels in New York State?
We had
different types of stuff. It was really, it depends on the decade, because we would have like to get certain anime in the early years, you could watch them in Spanish. For some reason, the Spanish stations would get the animation early, and you could watch it that way. We had public access, but there was never really any comic book related things.
We didn't. I think public access was a New York City thing. I don't think we had that out here in the suburbs, but we did have that weird local channel that all it did was give you weather dials. I think that was like the equivalent to public access, except there was nothing on it but weather dials. The Sugar and Spike and Adam Strange reading, when that showed up, it was like, whoa, what's this?
I used to watch a Texas public access show on the internet, live on the internet on Sundays. That thing became an internet sensation, and clips from it started popping up on YouTube. It was the Atheist Experience, and the guy who did. Do you remember an indie comic called Hepcats?
Oh, Hepcats,
yeah. So the guy who did that comic was on that show.
Martin something Martin. I can't remember. I have seen it with the Hepcats. Mm-hmm. But yeah, our friend Bunch, who just had his big toe amputated, used to tape public access shows in the 90s all the time. I think he still has compilation tapes of weird public access stuff. But yeah, did you guys know that Bunch has had his toe amputated this week?
Yes.
Oof. I did not know that.
Gruesome.
It's rough. How is he otherwise?
He's doing okay. I think he's finally getting home. He had to be in the hospital for over a week to have that done. He also has dialysis. He's got failing kidneys. So he had to be in for a week where they did tests and observed him, gave him dialysis. Finally, I think on Monday, they amputated his toe. Yeah, I think he had to have some sort of angioplasty too. And then they had to make sure the bone wasn't infected too for a couple of days. I think he's finally home today. I'm not even sure. I haven't checked. But yeah, he's been in there for a while, not being able to sleep because he's describing on Facebook all of his roommates in the hospital who they're loud. There's people who just scream. There's people who keep the TV on blaring all the time. There's people who are congested, who can't breathe, who just make gurgling noises. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, there is no getting any rest in a hospital.
No.
At all.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's time for us to say goodnight.
Mm-hmm.
See, you have to share the Vasco Granjo with the gang.
No, I don't.
Well, it's nice to have Chris stop by for a little while. Good to see you, Chris.
I finished inking today.
Did the whole book?
Yeah.
Officer Clawsome, Volume 2?
Yes.
What's the name of this one?
Awesome.
Crime Across Time.
How many pages?
236.
Woo! 236 pages inked. Drawn and inked. When can we expect this one to be out? You got to color it now, right?
I still got to color it.
Ah.
Yeah.
Oh, Jared, tell Chris about your experiences with AI coloring.
Well, you're gonna have to go back because it took me 20 minutes to explain it. But if you go back to the beginning, about 20 minutes in, just fast forward to it, you can hear me. You can hear my AI coloring process that I used for that you probably won't use at all, but it was interesting.
Thumbs up.
I managed to use it sort of as a tool. I don't know if it could be used for. I mean, I did it for 120 drawings I was doing. It worked out well for me, but I don't know how well it would work out in any other situation. But it was an interesting thing.
Yeah, they're going to replace us all with AI.
Eventually, but not yet.
Not quite yet. Maybe like next year.
I'll send you a link to the exact spot, and you can watch just that piece. Right?
Quantum computers are coming.
Robots. They're going to replace us all with robots.
With the quantum computing is going to boost AI exponentially.
Yeah, then they'll be able to create holodecks for all of us.
The Vulcans will show up, but at least we'll be,
Maybe that's what life has been this whole time, is just one big holodeck.
It was a master class in AI use. All right.
All right, I got to check it out.
Have a good night out there.
Bye.
Take care, everybody. Have a good one.
Catch you next time. I want to try the end button. Let's see if it. Oh, once again, I have to go up here and hit end anyway.